Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Optibotimus coming at you with another video review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new TakaraTomy Transformers Masterpiece MP-28, the Cybertron Cavalier, otherwise known as Hot Rodimus, or as we know him as, just regular old Hot Rod. For the package, you can see that they've gone back to the smaller size box, that all the other Autobot cars have basically had. And to kind of give you a comparison here, this is the smokescreen box, as you can see, the exact same size, both width, height, and of course depth here. Obviously it is a smaller size than what we got recently with Ironhide. As you can see, that was a much bigger box, as the figure is much bigger, but that gives you an idea of basically the size that they went with this new 2.0 version of Hot Rod. You can see you got a really nice image of the figure in both vehicle and robot mode. You can see MP-28, Cybertron Cavalier, Hot Rodimus, all that stuff there. This side has a nice side image of his car mode. This side has a nice action pose from his robot mode, all the warnings and things like that, Transformers Masterpiece. And then on the back of the package, you got a read up that I can't read. And again, I really wish I could. You got a nice image here of his vehicle mode, all of his different accessories, how they actually interact with the figure. Then here they all just by themselves. They got Hot Rod fishing with his fishing rod, and then you have Hot Rod next to the Ultra Magnus, as well as what I'm assuming would be Daniel. I don't know why he would have Spike, but who knows. But for the packaging on this guy, that is about it for, like I said, same size as all those other Autobot cars, so we basically know what we're getting. But for the packaging, that's about it for it. So without further ado, let's get this guy out here and see how cool he actually is. So here we have Masterpiece Hot Rod open up and out of his packaging. Now, one thing that I would like to talk about first is that this 2.0 version is only Hot Rod. Unlike MP-09 that had both Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime engineered into one figure, this is just Hot Rod. So naturally, it's going to be a much smaller figure and the engineering much more simplified. But it's actually still really very fun, and I think they did a really good job with this. There are some problems that I do have with it, but I think in general, he's a much better figure than MP-09. Now, starting off first, he does come with a collector card. You can see a little bit of a kind of artistic look on here. I'm really kind of happy with how that turned out. That looks really neat. You come around here to the back, and then you got some stuff that I can't read, and you got some product shots, and then obviously his tech specs right down there. And then like all the other ones, you do get the instruction manual. You come around, you can see he's got a supercar, which obviously, and again, Hot Rodimus. They probably can't call him Hot Rod, for copyright reasons. You got some, 360 views right there. You got some product shots. You got the accessories, including his photon laser saw blade, and then fishing rod, and you can see how he actually holds all that stuff. And then on the back section here, all the instructions on actually how to transform him. It's actually really pretty simple. But this figure really did come out very, very nicely, I think. Like I said, there are some kind of nitpicks that I have on him, but in general, really happy with it. Now, for his accessories, you got the guns. They're a little bit different than what I was kind of hoping for. In terms of his G1 toy, these are his guns that came with them, and you can see they're sort of similar in terms of the overall aesthetic. These have these little wings. I guess you could kind of say that these have that as well, but these are definitely more toy. These are definitely more cartoon looking, but you can see that they're molded differently, and they do look really nice. I'm quite happy with how those turned out. I don't know if I'm going to have him dual wielding guns or anything, but you do have that. And then you can fold this handle down just like so, and then you got these little pegs that actually can be pegged into the top side, and the little cat hair there, little tucks fur all over the place. These little bits right here and here are on springs that you can just take that, put that in right there, and right there. And if you wanted to do that kind of look, you could. I think that's a little bit silly. You can also take this, lift this up. This is a really stiff joint, but actually it's really nice chrome on there. And then make sure you push that all the way back to get the clearance to actually fit this. That actually doesn't fit very well. You push that, make sure, there we go. Push that as far back as you can to get the clearance to wedge that in there. And you can do that, which is reminiscent of his, Target Master gimmick. You can do that, and obviously this doesn't come with the Target Master. But if you have that Hasbro version of a MP-09, you got offshoot or firebolt or whatever you want to call them, copyright, things like that. And unfortunately, really, you can't peg that in there. You can see that the tabs kind of go out and it doesn't really fit. You do have that other tab. Yeah, and that's not going to fit either. So getting that all wedged around there, and it's kind of flopping all over the place. You can see that that really doesn't fit either. That's too big, so that's not going to fit in there. So you really can't use this in terms of the vehicle mode with him. You can use it kind of with his robot form, but you know, if you wanted to have a Target Master, you can kind of have him still kind of hanging out there, but you're not going to be able to actually plug it into his engine block like you could with that old G1 toy. So that's what you got with these weapons in terms of vehicle storage, kind of setting these off to the side. Vehicle-wise, though, I really do think he looks pretty good. You can see I get him to roll fairly decent. Oh, let me make sure I squeeze everything because I messed with this part right here. So get that face up there, get that in there, and you can see he rolls fairly well. I mean, you can see the actual tire is, oh, now there it goes. You can see it rolls. The other side, that rolls. It's hard to see, but these are rolling. So he rolls fairly well if you get him transformed properly. But he's a really cool looking figure. Now, a lot of other reviews have been coming out, and it showed that this was a clear translucent window. The actual production shows what you see right here. This is a more blue translucent kind of plastic as opposed to the clear one, which I think looks a little bit better. Some people kind of like that clear one because it was a little bit more cartoon accurate. But I think in terms of a toy homage, I think it looks pretty good. But I could see where people would like the clear one. And honestly, the clear one I don't think looks all that bad. Because like I said, that has a little bit more of a cartoon look to it. So starting things off first, we're going to take a look at some comparisons. And we got a bunch. First up, here's his G1 toy. But again, you can see you got the blue window here. But size-wise, you can see that he is a little bit bigger. Obviously, G1 toys are pretty small. But also the color is a little bit more off. This is more of a magenta, and this is a much more red color. But again, you can see that he's got the Target Master engine right there. So overall, pretty nice. One aspect that I don't particularly like on this is I do wish that there was a little bit more angle here with the actual, exhaust pipes or whatever. You can see that he's got a little bit more flare on that side, and it's still there, but it's not as pronounced as I kind of would like it to be. And for some other Masterpiece vehicles, you can see we got Ironhide and, of course, Sideswipe. And this is where you're definitely seeing that he's a lot more small of a figure and scales a lot better with these new Masterpiece cars. I mean, I think this looks really good. He's a little bit longer, actually, than Sideswipe. Obviously, Ironhide being a little minivan, he's going to be a little bit shorter as well, but obviously a much taller vehicle. And then Robot Mode, he obviously gets much bigger. But size-wise, I think this works. Now, some people were talking about they think that he's too small, but I think in keeping with kind of the general aesthetic that they're going for, this works. I mean, two things really do get Transformer fans kind of going. Talking about Michael Bay movies and Transformer figure scale. I mean, there were some times where Hot Rod looked like he was as big as Optimus Prime, and then in the next scene, Rodimus Prime is as big as him as well. And we all know that Hot Rod goes from a smaller character to a bigger character, so it's like, why does the size not change? There's just no continuity with it. I mean, it changes all the time, and Hot Rod and Rodimus was a prime example of that. So I think it's just something that we have to accept. But in general, I think they did a pretty good job here. And that even carries over here with Masterpiece Ultra Magnus. Now, obviously, I'm just going to use this as my reference for the MP-10 because they use the exact same shape and everything. But you can see that basically MP-10 is represented here, and you can see just how big he is compared to Hot Rod. And then, obviously, Ultra Magnus just himself is a much larger character. And you can see that you can roll this down. And this, well, other than that, it can't really fit in here very well because this hits. So you kind of have to go in on an angle or even just put it in here. You can sit it there perfectly fine. And that works. He does fit on Optimus Prime's trailer as well. Actually, even better than Ultra Magnus here because he's a little bit wider and doesn't have as much, junk here in the back. But size-wise, though, this, I think, works. Get that. Come on. fiddle with this to get that to turn around. I think that this looks really good together. I'm really very happy with how this scale works. Again, you have to be flexible with, I guess, your expectations. And in this case, I definitely am. And for the big comparison, here we have them next to MP-29. And like I said, this is engineered to basically have 4 modes in it. Now this is the Takara one, so the color is a little bit closer, but wow, that is a huge difference. Now, one thing that you are noticing is that the flames actually extend all the way up to the window, which is a little bit more cartoon accurate. This doesn't. These actually become the top of his shoulders, so I can understand why they didn't do that, but that might throw some people off. You can see that the window colors are basically the same. Just overall, you know, and then again, when I was talking about like the flaring here of the exhaust pipes, this is a little bit more streamlined, I guess. This doesn't look all that bad, but I just think like the straightness of the bottom is probably where I'm having a little bit more issue. And, you know, this just looks a little bit more cool. I think they're, you know, they're more tapered here towards the end than this is. They're all big and, you know, the exact same size, so it kind of throws me off a little bit here. I can understand why they did it. It all comes together a little bit better, you know, in terms of robot mode, but I think that overall it looks pretty good. You got some nice detailing here. In the back, you got these little panels here which will pop up, which look really good, especially in robot mode. But in general, that's what you're looking at for a difference. One other thing is this can actually open, as you can, or if you remember, that can open up. You got the little seat kind of thing in here, and then that went all the way down. That's how you would transform them to get to Rodimus Prime. Because they didn't need to do that with this, this doesn't lift up. And honestly, it doesn't bother me all that much, because when you look in there, it doesn't really look like there's a seat or a steering wheel or anything like that. So it's not a big deal if you ask me. But that's obviously a change as well. You can see, I really like the engine on this as well. I mean, that's really cool looking. This has a kind of a blackish kind of tone to it, which looks really cool. I kind of wish that they put that in there, made it look a little bit more dirty, I guess. But I'm happy with how that is, and I really do like the size on that one. But I mean, you just look at these two guys, and it's really quite a difference. But when you eliminate the need to have 4 modes, you know, you really can shrink things down and get it to that new masterpiece car size that they're going for. And that was definitely one of the problems with the original, you know, MP-09 figure. It was just super engineered. I mean, things were bound to bump into each other. But overall, I am really happy in terms of vehicle mode with how this guy has turned out. And for one other comparison, here he is next to Daniel that came with a Masterpiece Ultra Magnus. And as you can see, you know, human-wise, they don't fit very good in terms of scale with the cars. It's nice to have them, obviously, but it's definitely smaller. And because you can't open this or anything, there's no real way that you can actually sit him in there, which I don't know why you would want to anyhow. I mean, you could just recreate that one scene, but scale-wise, that's what you're looking at for this guy. Now, to transform him, again, he's actually pretty simple to do, and it's just because he's got 2 modes. So first what you want to do is you want to come around here, you got to loosen all this up. It pegs in here on a couple different joints. You got tabs. You got one tab right there and then one tab right there. So it kind of locks things in there pretty securely. So you kind of want to pull it out, get that out of the way like so. And then what I like doing is actually rotating them around right now. The instructions don't tell you to do that, but it kind of makes it a little bit easier to manipulate things right around here. So just kind of get that out of the way like that. Come around here to the top section. Again, now the instructions don't really tell you to do this, but it's a little bit easier to open this whole section up. And then you can split this, get this out of the way, untab this here, untab this here, and then this whole section will allow you to rotate that around. When you do that, you want to then rotate this back like so, and that tab's down there, and then you bring this around, and that's where his head basically is going to be. And then you can close this and put that back the way it is. You can rotate these down. Those are going to become obviously his shoulder pieces here, but then you want to accordion these arms out. They're on an extra kind of double hinge sort of thing right there. And then right here, you want to push this all the way down, and there's a little small section that when you bring it down, it'll catch underneath the little orange piece right here. So you bring that down, and then it locks in. Really very cool. And then just swivel these out, get these out of the way. Now you can angle these pieces back just like so. We're going to be bringing those in here in just a sec. So bring that in. Then this whole section right here, you want to detach from the actual leg. So detach that. Bring this up like so. And then you come around here to this. Take this section, tuck that down. Do that there as well. Rotate these pieces around just like that. Do that on this side as well. And then you can take this whole assembly. This will detach and then will swivel around just like that, which is really very nice. And then you got these little tabs right here and here, which will peg into hole slots right there. So just push that in. Then you can rotate this section around just like so. One thing that's really cool is you can see that these vents, when you actually lock that in and you bring these pieces, when you bring these around, these actually push up, which is really cool. So I probably should have showed that a little bit better. So you got that, and then as you bring that around, just showing you it again, bring that around, that pushes that up, which gives a cool look to it. I really dig that. So again, you just bring that in, slot those pieces in like so, and then you got a little tab section right here on the back of his head that's going to peg into that slot right there. So bring that in, there we go, push that in, and that detach that, so push that in as well. That locks that in there very nicely and securely. Then you take these arms, and these sections right here are going to tab into the sides of these windows. So bring that in, give that a nice little push, locks in there very securely. Do that on this side as well. Push that in, locks that in very securely. Now, if you already rotated the arms, they're the way that they're going to need to be. Make sure that these little sections are all the way pushed down like so. If you didn't rotate them, you're going to have it like this, and then you just spin it around just like so. Then you come around here to the side. You got the little panels right here that open up, and then you can rotate his fists around, close that, and then rotate right here at the upper part of the bicep, I guess. So again, on this side, open up the panel, rotate this out like so, close that, spin that around so that the actual thrusters are now on the outside of his arms, which is the way that it should be, obviously. Then you want to take the legs, spread these apart, come around here to the back section. These little panels will open up like so, and then you accordion these legs outward. A lot of people talk about how they're very much like combiner war legs, and they kind of are, but they're actually very secure. You can see a groove section right here that this piece right here will come up and line up and stick there into place, and then you can bring this around, and then you got a little tab on the back panel that tabs in right here. So you bring that in, makes a very secure connection. Then you want to fold out the feet just like that. Do that on this side as well. Open that up, swivel this out, line up, straighten out that knee, line up that panel in the front, plug that in, bring this around, lock that into place, fold out the foot, bring out the heel, straighten out his legs, straighten that out, angle this back down, get him positioned nicely. This sometimes here, these little side skirts will sometimes get caught in like all the way, so you just kind of push that out, kind of angling that. But when you're done, there you have Hot Rod in his robot mode. And starting off first, you know, this guy really has gotten some flack. It's one of those things where I don't think that he was really going to blow people away one way or the other. He's a definite improvement over MP-29. Do not get me wrong. But there are definitely some aspects of this guy that I think that they could have engineered a little bit better. The big elephant in the room is his chest. I mean, that is completely flat and straight. That's really disappointing when you consider the fact that cartoon-wise, he had a very tapered torso. It's one of those things where I can see where people would have a problem with, because this does not have that cartoon accurate look. As you can see from the pictures here on the side, it definitely is a lot more blocky. One of the biggest things that I don't particularly like is this chest. Well, I really shouldn't even say the chest. I really think it's this part right here. If that was tapered in a little bit more, I think it would look a lot nicer. Now, yeah, the other thing is that it's just so ridiculously flat. There's no curve to it whatsoever. I do like what they did here with the head. The head looks terrific, and he definitely has that popped collar kind of look, which was definitely a visual element that Hot Rod had. I mean, he's supposed to be, you know, a young, hip, kind of 80s sort of guy, and I think that they captured it. But like I said, I just really think they could have did a better job. Some people have complained about the backpack and how his spoiler isn't more close to the actual, like, torso. I mean, this whole big section here, I don't think it really looks all that bad. I think that this part right here looks a little bit uglier in the fact that you can see him just kind of sticking up, and it kind of blocks that aesthetic of having his wings there. That's one thing that I think is a little bit ugly. I also do not like these screw holes right here. It just stands out and really, I don't know. I don't want to say makes it look like a toy, because obviously it is a toy. It's just that I think is a little bit lazy and sloppy. I don't know really why they couldn't have done something to make that look a little bit better. But, I mean, beyond that, I am pretty happy with the figure. There are problems with it. There's no question. And I do think he is a better representation overall of Hot Rod than MP-29 was. I just think that they could have did a better job here. It's one of those things where people will constantly keep saying that he looks better in person. I guess that's kind of true, and I'm having a hard time. He wants to kind of lean back a little bit, so I'm trying to fiddle with his feet here to kind of get them to position a little bit better. But people say that he looks better in person, and yeah, I can see that, but I mean, there's just no getting around how flat that chest is. It's just really kind of ugly. And even in person, it's as bad as it looked in pictures. But it is still a better figure. Now, starting off with some comparisons. First is his G1 self. Now, if you did want to, you kind of could, I guess, sort of recreate, you know, kind of his arm reverse kind of look, I guess, by putting that around. That's a little bit more classic Rodimus kind of look, but you can kind of fiddle with that and do different things. But you can see that color-wise, he's a little bit more red. He's got this more magenta kind of color going with him, but in general, you know, it's an obvious improvement over this guy just because he's a G1 toy. Now, despite these guys never really appearing on screen together, here we have them next to the most recent MP-27 Ironhide, as well as Masterpiece Sideswipe. And you can see, vehicle-wise, you know, they are basically the same size. Hot Rod is a little bit bigger, but you can see in terms of the robot form, he does get taller, even than, you know, kind of the standard size for the Masterpiece cars. But then when you look at him next to Ironhide here, you can definitely see that his face still pops off if you sneeze on it. Get that on there, okay. You know, Ironhide still has a very towering effect. And I'm trying to keep his legs a little bit more straight here so you can get a better appreciation of it. Let's see if I can fiddle with that a little bit and twist and turn, and there we go, finagle him. But you can definitely see that Ironhide is a much bigger figure, which is accurate. I mean, like I said, this guy wildly varied in terms of sizes depending on what scene he was in. But in general, I think that this works pretty well. Here we have a big size difference. There we're looking at Masterpiece Ultra Magnus and obviously Hot Rod. This people have kind of complained about, definitely. Magnus is a very big figure, and well, look at all that. So this was definitely going to be a very weird comparison. I don't think it's really horrible. I do think it's probably not as good as it could be, but I'm happy with it. I mean, if it was me, this is not the size that I would really want, but I'm able to just kind of accept it and go with it. And here he is with his mentor, Optimus Prime. Now, this is the MP-10 version, and one thing that I will say is that you can open this and you can plainly see that he's got a matrix chamber there. Now, that's one thing that I think people have kind of rightly criticized. Taking this out, he doesn't come with a matrix or anything like that. Get him to stand there. You do have to use Optimus Prime. So wedging that out, it's never been easy getting his Matrix out. But come on, come here, Prime. Or Matrix. You do have that slot right there where you can take this and you can put it in there, and he can actually store his Matrix in there as well. I really think that if they were going to just make a Hot Rod figure, they should have completely eliminated this. There's no need for it. I mean, yeah, in the cartoon and everything, he put the Matrix in and so on and so forth, became Optimus Prime, but I think if you eliminated that big cavity, you really could have found a way to make this section down here collapse in. I definitely think that that's a very valid argument for a lot of people. I think it's cool, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely one of those things where I think that their idea was a little bit more ambitious than the actual aesthetic that was achieved here. And finally, here he is next to MP-29 Hot Rod. Now this can be Hot Rod, it can be, and obviously Rodimus Prime. This is the configuration for actual Hot Rod. And again, you know, he doesn't come with a Matrix, but this is really piddly. I don't know how I'm gonna get that. There we go. This is plastic. This is really lame. There's that. I mean, it sits in there, but that giant hole is just going to fall in there. I mean, that's really bad. So you got this little, maybe if you made it where that was the size of this, you probably could have still had this collapse in. So if they utilized this Matrix with this guy, probably would have been a lot better, to be totally honest with you. And when you look at it, at least with the torso here, you can see that it tapers in a little bit more around the side, whereas this one absolutely doesn't do that. And then you can also see that it's got a little bit of an angle to it, which this one doesn't. So as much as people want to criticize this figure and say that this one is better, and I do think that this one is better, at least they got, I think, the chest a little bit better here. You know, and as I reviewed this a while ago, mine has been broken in like 2 different places, and I don't like transforming it at all. I do still give Takara a ton of credit in being able to fit 4 modes in this. I mean, that's actually pretty decent engineering if you ask me. You also have this piece that sticks out a little bit more, which does look a little bit better. Now, it's not much of a difference, but this is the Rodimus Prime configuration. And do I have that? No, that's attached. So you can see that he does get a little bit bigger. And obviously, if you wanted to do, you know, something like this, where he's opening the Matrix and becoming bigger, I guess that's kind of a cool display option for him. But for your comparisons, that's what you're looking at. And for one final comparison, here he is next to Daniel, or Dano, and as you can see, huge size difference here. I mean, you can take this guy and get his arms up, put him like that, and you sit him on his shoulder or something. I don't even know if he can actually, will he stay there? Maybe, something like that. No, okay, you could do something like that. But I don't think that the scale is all that bad. I mean, that actually works pretty good, especially if you're going to, like, recreate the scene where he's falling down, and you can detach this to bring this in. We'll go over the articulation. If you want to bring this like this and kind of recreate, I'm falling down, you know, him holding him, you can actually do that, which is pretty cool. You just have to detach that right there. Now, for the rest of his accessories, this obviously does not come with him, so why they didn't, honestly, I think that they should have used him as an accessory, but whatever. Now, for the rest of his accessories, his guns right here, rotating these down. Obviously, you know, you can use these as guns. He did use them in the movie in various times and things like that. These are very stiff. He's got the slot on the very back of the hand again, which this actually, it fits in there a lot better than Ironhide's did, but it's still kind of weird that they're putting them all the way in the back. I guess maybe to get more finger scaling properly done or something like that. But, I mean, you can get some crazy looks for him and just setting him there, and I mean, it's cool looking, right? I mean, it does look pretty good. I can't complain really too much about the overall look of them. There are some aspects that I think that they could have improved on, but I am, in general, fairly happy with this guy. So I hope I'm not sounding too negative in this video. There are aspects that I think that they could have done differently and better. But all in all, I think that he still came out pretty nice. Now, for his other accessories, getting him to stand, he does come with the little buzzsaw, which is really nicely detailed. You got a really nice silver paint that kind of gradients inward towards a more clear sort of look, so you can spin it and get a really cool look for it. So to actually do this, you take your fingernail. I have one fingernail, a pinky finger. Tuck that in, rotate this around, and then you got the little tab right there, and then you just take this and you can put that in there just like so. So you can have him with his blade hand if you wanted. And then obviously, you know, in recreating some of those iconic movie scenes, he does come with his fishing pole. I always see people, and this is really kind of weird, I always see people lifting this and always doing this. To have him sit down, and yeah, you can have him sit down like this, and you can have him fishing. He didn't do that though. In the scene, he was sitting there with his arm, or his legs kind of like this. He was sitting on his butt, and he was kind of like that. I mean, there was actually like a little, I guess, slant right there. So he was sitting like this. I don't understand why people want to keep putting him in a yoga pose, but they do. So he comes with this fishing pole. You can see some nice black paint right down there on the actual reel. It's all, the rest of it is molded in this kind of purplish plastic kind of thing. It is kind of hard to get him to dual wield this, I guess. You can just angle that down there, and let's see if we can, you can pop that joint out, I guess, and you can do that on this side as well, and angling that. It is possible to do, but you do have to be creative with your positioning of his hands. So going like this, kind of angling that, and you can have, you know, put his legs like that, have it like that, and again, using this as if it's a side of a little hill, and then the riverbed's right there. I mean, you could do something like that, which, you know, it does look pretty cool. It's weird. I mean, it's the first time that we were introduced to Hot Rod, so I get why they included it. It's just a weird kind of accessory to have. I almost would have preferred just getting another Daniel figure, but, you know, whatever. Now, like I was talking about here with his Target Master, you can actually, you got the little tab right there. Let me see if I can actually get this in here. Yeah, you can't really get it in there all that well because you got this extra little tab section right here, so you can't get it all the way back. You can kind of use the hand to actually grip onto it, though, as you can see right there. So if you wanted to, you can have them hold that Target Master if you wanted to, but it's not going to tab in securely. I mean, it holds in there fairly nicely, just not a secure tab. Now, for his articulation, he's actually really very well articulated. The head, oh, one other, I should have shown this. I'm talking about his accessories. I need to show this. And I guess coming in, you can get a good look at how his face actually looks here, and get that tabbed all the way down. That face looks really very good. I actually really like it. It's got a nice round shape to the head. Looks very cartoony. So you can actually lift this up, and this is hard to get to because the joint is really stiff in there, and I'm kind of worried. I'm just going to wedge that forward a little because of how stiff that joint is. Rotating this around, it might break the plastic. So bringing that all the way around, closing that, you can give him the little goggles that he wore when he, you know, put his arms up and he was like, shooting this. I mean, that's his little target thing and everything. And that looks pretty good, and it's a lighter color, which I like. I think that looks a little bit more accurate to the actual cartoon. I think, again, you know, all these early reviews, I think it showed that being darker of a color, so I think that the color is a little bit nicer on here. So being careful. Again, as I'm saying, being careful using a sharp, pointy object, that's intelligent. So you just rotate that back around. I don't anticipate myself using that all that much, but that actually is kind of a cool touch. So I do like that, and I think the face looks terrific. Now, first articulation, like I was talking about, the head is on a really nice swivel. It's not a ball joint, but you get a nice swivel looking left and right. Kind of looks down about that far, not a heck of a lot. Looks up really far though, which that is great. The shoulders here are on these swivel joints, so you get a nice rotation there. It rotates in and out on an extra joint, so you got a rotation there and then another joint right there that allows for articulation. If you want to bring more shoulder range in, you can detach this from the side, and it actually doesn't look bad when you bring it in. It kind of hides those joints right there, so it's not as ugly looking. So if you did want to do that fishing pose, you really could. He does rotate here at the upper part of the elbow, I guess. He's got two joints at the elbow, so you can get that at almost a full bend. I mean, that's really very nice. He does have a waist rotation, and he also does have a hip flex, which is nice. I mean, that is really quite impressive, and it really helps to get that, you know, full-on seating kind of pose right there, although it kind of makes his butt fall back. But you can take these and actually angle these back just like so, and he sits really nicely. So those little panels for his hip skirt actually kind of serve a purpose, and it helps to keep him sitting upright, which is really nice. So great range of motion there. You can, like I said, fold both of these out, or the one here in the front, and then you got side ones, and then you got two here in the back that allow for a full range of motion yeah, that is a ball joint right there. So you can get that moving however you want. And then you got an upper thigh swivel. You got two joints here at the knee, which actually is pretty nice. Then you come down to the ankle itself. It can pivot side to side a little. These are kind of stuck into place. I do kind of wish that these were on a hinge where you can angle those out to get a little bit more of a range of motion here, but that's overall not too bad. It's a pretty wide pose. And then it can also move forward and back. I guess you can say that he's got heel articulation as well. So overall, very well articulated figure. You can pull off a lot of dynamic poses with this guy, and just being crazy and creative. Let's see how balanced he is. Let's see, and my table here is rounded, so it's a little bit harder to do this kind of stuff, but let's see how good he actually wants the balance. No, almost. Do I almost have it? No, let's see, is it possible? Come on, high kick, high kick. I've seen it done, so I know it's possible. I'm just not very good at balancing things. So Oh, that was almost it. That was almost it. All right, we're gonna try this for 2 more seconds. 1, 2, and no, can't do it. I've seen pictures, so I know it's possible to do. It just takes a lot of patience, and I don't want to keep wasting your guys' time. So overall, great articulation on this guy. Really, very, very happy with it. I think that he turned out really good. It's definitely a figure that has sparked some debate in the Transformers community, but in general, I think that it is an improvement based on the fact that it's much more simple than MP-29. And despite the, eyesores that he does have, I do think that he is a very nice figure and well worth picking up. Now, to transform him back, we're going to detach a lot of this stuff, get this lifted up, get that out of the way. We're going to rotate this around just like so. Well, no, I'm going to leave it like that because it's the way that I did it before. So we're going to rotate this around, do that on this side as well. I'm going to leave it like that because that's how I transformed it initially. So bring this up, take these hands, rotate these around, tuck them in, and close that like so. Do that on this side as well. Bring that up, make sure you get the hand pushed in all the way. There we go. So now we got that kind of fiddled around with and done. Kind of lift that up just to get it out of the way. Come around here, we're going to detach these little pieces on the back. Come on. There we go. Take the little foot, fold that in, and then you just collapse this up. And it helps to kind of, there we go, lift this up over it because that's going to have to be over it in the actual vehicle mode. So then you bring this in, and then you got a little slot on the back of his thigh that this tabs into. So bring that in, lock that into place, and then fold the foot down just like so. So again, this side, detach this, rotate this up, kind of keep that front hip skirt up so you can slot it in there properly. Push that in, bring the foot together, bring that in, lock that into place, and then you bring the 2 feet together just like so, and then you can put that down just like that. come around here to the back section. We're going to rotate this piece around like so, detach this from the back of his head area, and then rotate this whole section around, and detach the arms just like that, swivel those out, and then you can bring that down, and this kind of lifts up just like so. Take this, rotate these pieces out on both sides, and then they tab in. You got a little tab right here that slots in right underneath there. So you bring that up, locks that into place right there. Where's it at? Yeah, there we go. And then you rotate the little, I don't even know what these are. Are these tail lights? I guess they're going to be tail lights. And then if this section here didn't collapse down, just go ahead and tuck that down just like that. Bring this back. Now to do this, and if you want to get the wheels lined up properly, this is a little bit of the trick. Take these and actually kind of leave these forward so that you can see these little these little slots here and here. They're going to tab in on little sections here in here. You just kind of bring this in, and it's hard to see because there's no, I mean, especially if you have the feet like this, it's really hard to see. So leaving the feet down like this allows some light in there, and you can actually see kind of what's happening. So just line those up and give those a nice little squeeze, and then take these, tuck these all the way up. That's what will really help to kind of keep the legs up so that you get all of the tires actually on the ground. So we're going to come around here, detach this, open this little chest section. And one other thing is you can transform the hot rod here with that MP10 matrix in there. You don't even have to take it out. So you can leave that in there through the entire process if you want to. It doesn't matter to me, honestly. Rotate this around just like that, and then bring that up just like that. Then you can bring this around. Oh, and actually, before you lock all that into place, want to rotate these little pieces in the front, get that kind of out of the way. There we go. Rotate those around. Come on. There we go. Those will tab into place. And before you bring everything in, you want to accordion these in so that this little double hinge is going to go essentially underneath everything here. So it's going to be collapsed in very nicely. So getting that up, rotate that in, bring that matrix section down, bring this section all the way down, lock that into place, just like so. Then you can bring these around, you can rotate this section around just like that, do that on this side as well, and then you basically just slot everything in and line all these tabs back up and kind of wiggle, get that, there we go, there, just like that. Make sure you push those all the way down, then bring this in again, line up the little tab. There's a little tab kind of underneath here that you got to get everything smooth with. There we go, there we go. Push that in, push that in. Again, make sure that you have these feet pushed up as far as you can get them. Take this section, there's actually a little underneath here a notch that slots into this magenta section, so just make sure you bring that down, push that in there, and then push the head back up like that. That actually elevates the engine block here a little bit more. So once you get that, should have all the tires. There we go, perfect. Rolls great. Again, all the wheels are on the ground. As long as you do those very simple steps, you'll get this guy transformed properly, and once you're done, you'll have him back here in his very cool supercar mode. In general, though, I do think that this is a better figure, but it's also one of those things where, is it better because it's more simplified? Probably, but I also feel that the quality is better on this. You know, MP-29 was riddled with, quality control issues where a lot of pieces broke on them. As I mentioned, there's 2 spots on mine that are broken. And that's not just me, a lot of people have that problem. But is this better because it's more simple? It's really hard to kind of say. I mean, MP-09, like I said, had 4 modes designed into it. Was that a little bit too ambitious? Maybe. Would it have been better had they given us 2 separate figures? I do think that that would have been more ideal, but I do appreciate and respect what they were going for in giving us a hot rod figure that can also grow to be Rodimus Prime. I just think ultimately it was a bad decision, and I think they're trying to make up for it with this. Now, are we ever going to get a separate Rodimus Prime figure? Maybe, and I would absolutely love that. I know Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime really get a lot of flack from the fans, but it's a character that I do appreciate. And figure-wise here, I think they did a remarkable job with it. Vehicle mode here, I do like it. I think that, you know, there are some aesthetic choices, like with the exhaust pipes here, that I'm not particularly fond of. I do wish, you know, the rear section here tapered a little bit more. I do wish that this would kind of angle up towards the bottom instead of just being completely straight. But that's really the biggest gripe I would kind of say here in vehicle mode. Transformation is really very simple when you're doing it. And when you go from transforming MP-29 to this, it's a joy to transform this. It's a chore to transform that other guy. So I think that transformation is really very nice on this guy. But again, how much of that was because of what their ambitions were in MP-09? Who knows? And then robot mode, that's probably where I think he falls a little bit short. And I don't mean that pun, but he's size-wise very good with the rest of the Masterpiece carved Autobots. I have no problem with his size at all. But just some of the aesthetic, I think, could have been done much nicer, especially in the torso. He's just too straight. Now, like I said, a lot of people say, well, in hand it looks better. Yes and no. I mean, it's not something that bothers me all that much, but I think that's the weakest aspect on him, and it shows no matter what. So regardless if you look at pictures, you look at this video review, you look at it in hand, it is what it is. And it's something that I think could have been done much better. You know, be that making, you know, the matrix chamber not there and making the torso section be, or the chest section be able to compress in more. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but I think they could have done something a little bit better and a little bit different. Ultimately, I'm very happy with this figure, and I'm glad that they revisited the character himself, but this is without a doubt one of their weakest offerings in terms of recreating that cartoon element. So many other figures just really nicely nailed that general aesthetic that the cartoon had, that while this, you know, does hit on some areas, the parts that it misses on are just really big. But all that said, I still recommend him. I think that he is a great improvement over MP-09. And I think if you want to stick to using this guy as Hot Rod and using MP-09 as Rodimus Prime, you'll be perfectly fine with it. So all that being said, if you're interested in picking this guy up, he is available right now at Big Bad Toy Store. So all you have to do is click on the link down in the video description. You'll go to BBTS where you can check out availability on this guy, as well as the rest of the Takara Masterpiece figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been Optibotimus. Don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe in case you haven't already scrabbled. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.